You guys know I love podcasting and listening to podcasts, and I'm guessing if you're listening to this that you love podcasts too. Have you ever considered podcasting yourself? It is a great way to reach your audience, grow your know, like and trust factor, and not need to show your face unless you want to. If it is something you've thought about but you don't know where to start, then head over to becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz, BAP quiz, to access a 2-minute quiz that will help you work out what type of podcast might suit you. That's becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz. You're listening to the Mindset and Action podcast, bringing you the map to grow and streamline your business in 2023. I'm your host, Donna Eade, your go-to gal for all things podcasting, planning and productivity. And I'll be bringing you all that plus mindset goodness from experts with knowledge to share. Let's make 2023 the year of success in your business. Health is a state of body. Wellness is a state of being. Jay Stanford. On the show today, we have Emma Louise Follows, and she helps people to get off the hamster wheel in their busy lives, to detox safely and rebuild their gut health with medicinal herbs and the right foods. This is going to be a fantastic conversation, guys. It all starts with your gut. I truly believe that. So let's jump into today's show. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I am so excited to have you here today because I have another wonderful guest for you today, and we are going to be talking about a really, really interesting topic. So welcome, Emma Louise, to the podcast. I'm so glad to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Donna. Really glad to be here. I've been looking forward to this one.
So we have actually been talking for a while now, and Emma gave me one of her free health check calls, which was really, really interesting. So whenever she is next offering them, definitely jump on one. But we've been talking for a while and I was like, I've got to have you on the podcast. So I'm super glad to be having this conversation with you today. So before we jump into the topic, can you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Yes. So my name's Emma Louise Follows. I run Eat Live Wellness, which is a business in Enfield. And so it's me and a couple of other people that I employ. And it's basically a business that's all about gut health. I'm a medical herbalist. So my whole kind of ethos is natural healing, starting with the gut. And I draw on a lot of Ayurvedic wisdom, Ayurveda being the system of Indian natural medicine and really kind of bringing the body back into balance. So more specifically, I offer products like raw ferments, kimchi, sauerkraut, that kind of thing for the gut. I also offer 3-day cleanse boxes where you have everything you need in the box for like a really thorough, like effective 3-day cleanse. And I also offer a deeper detox and gut reset program that I work with people over 12 weeks for and give them all the products, and you just get a really, you can imagine like a really sort of good refresh and sort of healing experience with that program. So so that's what I do, and I love it.
I love that. And I would love it if you went a little bit into why you started it, because you have another career that is a pretty badass career. And now you're doing this, and it's like complete 360. Well, no, 180, because 360 would take you back to where you belong. Like I was never really very good at my directions. But yeah, tell us a little bit about how you got into the business, because I think I love listening to people's like what was I going to call it?
An origin story.
Origin story. That's it. Yeah, the origin of how you came to do what you do.
Oh, me too. Yeah, it's just nice, isn't it, to hear people's stories and you just get into it. So my experience, my journey, I suppose, was kind of started, I would say, when I was in my 20s. So I got into quite an intense career as a lawyer. So completely different to what I do now. I didn't like emerge from uni like ready to go into healing or natural, like medical herbalism or anything like that. I actually got a law degree. I was really excited to be a solicitor, trained, qualified, and I spent my 20s working in criminal defense law, which, as you can imagine, we're in the city as well. So as you can imagine, it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
I always joke that on my first day on the job, I was sent to prison. Like literally, I was totally green. Like,
right at the deep end.
Yeah, I hadn't even done law school at that point, because I was just straight from my law degree, and I did the law school thing at the same time. And they sent me straight to prison. So it was, like a real culture shock. It was in and out of police stations, prisons. Like, this is what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to represent people who didn't have a voice. I wanted to be in the criminal justice system. So it was very much like, sort of passion of mine to do it. But it was difficult, as you can imagine. Because it was a small firm, there was no real, like I said, starting you off slow. It was very much like within a short amount of time, I was dealing with stuff like murders, for example, and really serious cases, and having to represent and deal with the people who were accused of those kind of things.
Yeah.
I was in my 20s. I was young. I did love it. It was a lot of adrenaline, but I was running on adrenaline lots of time. I'd often be in the police station at like 2 a.m. in the morning. So there was a lot of stress, even though I was enjoying it. And then it got to a point where I wasn't really enjoying it anymore, just because the novelty of all the excitement sort of started to wear off. And then I was just in sort of Peckham at 2 a.m. sort of coming out of a police station trying to find a cab in my heels and my pencil skirt.
Oh my Lord.
I know. And at the time, my only real interest in my body was being skinny, because I was in my 20s. So fast forward to later 20s, I meet Craig, my now husband, and we start, kind of settling down and move to a slightly different, calmer area of law, and have my children. And then I basically go from that kind of intensity into motherhood, which is its own
intensity for sure. Yeah,
exactly. And then what happened was, by the time I had my second little one, Ethan, and because I breastfed both my children, I was lucky enough to be able to do that. But what I didn't realize is that I was obviously feeding them on empty. I had spent like such a long time pushing my body, that by the time I'd done all that, and then I'd given them so much, and I hadn't really been taking care of myself, like in the background, I was obviously just giving from an empty tank.
Yeah.
And after about 18 months of feeding him, my health started to break down big time.
Wow.
I was chronically ill, and it was just one condition, not even after another, at the same time.
Yeah.
And a lot of my symptoms, like some of the things I was experiencing, like chronic eczema, at least I knew what that was, even though it was, sort of awful and uncomfortable. But a lot of my symptoms were unexplained. Like, I'd wake up with really bad nervous system symptoms, like pins and needles through my body, recurrent boils, so many different things. And the doctors weren't really much help. So I was going back and forth to my GP. I was getting antibiotics after antibiotics, steroid creams. And after my fourth course of consecutive antibiotics, I thought, you know what? This is clearly not helping long term. I need to take matters into my own hands. And that's when I started researching, sort of what is the immune system? Like, oh, it's in the gut. Like, so what can we do about that? What about, like, how does the body detox? That kind of thing. So I got into kimchi and, gut healing products and that kind of thing, gut healing foods. I got into Ayurveda, because that's the Indian system that I just felt drawn to, because it felt very intuitive. And then I started healing myself within such a quick space of time, like just by doing these things for myself, just by sort of making these foods and sort of supporting my body's natural detox pathways and following these Ayurvedic principles, that I thought, wow, like, I can't just leave it there. Like, when you have a transformation like that, you just can't shut up about it. So that's when I decided to set up a farmer's market stall, like literally just selling the things I was making, like kimchi and sauerkraut, making it available to other people, and just sharing the fact that, look, like I started healing from all these things within weeks, like, give it a go. And that's pretty much where that's how the business was born. It was just very organic, just through that desire to share something that had helped me. So yeah, that's what I do now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I love that. I love that. That's so good. That's so good. And I think one of the things that is really good when you're a business owner is that the business very often comes from something like that. It's something that you have done that suddenly becomes something that you're really passionate about and you want to share it with the world. So for me, it's podcasting. Absolutely love podcasting. We'll talk about it all day long. Happy to teach people how to do it. For you, it was a health thing that sort of pulled you down a path and you were like, I'm going for this. And I think a lot of people in business find their way that way. And it's so much nicer than I think the day job route, where you just kind of like, what job can I get? Okay, now I'm doing this. And there's like nothing behind it a lot of the time, especially in today's society where jobs are few and far between and applications are a billion for each job that's going. Like I see it on LinkedIn all the time when jobs sort of come up in the corner and it's like, apply for this job, you meet the criteria, there's 136 applications. I'm like, why am I going to bother?
Like
seriously. Now I have heard rumors that that's not quite accurate what's on there, but it's still, you still hear it a lot, and a lot of people are just out there literally throwing spaghetti at the wall to get themselves a job that will bring them an income. And I think for business owners, we're actually in a really lucky position to be able to find something that we love and to make it a business that can pay us money. It's magic, isn't it? It's magic.
It really is. Yeah, it's quite amazing.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about gut health, which you've touched on in your intro there, because I think it is something that is becoming more of a hot topic for sure. But definitely as business owners, we tend to be in the rat race of our own business. We wanted to get out of one rat race and we've come into another. We're doing long hours to get the business off the ground. We're trying to balance the business, the children, the family, the friends, and all of that jazz. And I think oftentimes, whether you are male or female, you kind of come at the bottom of that pecking order list when you're running a business, because I hear people all the time say, my business is my baby. And I heard somebody say you shouldn't say that.
Really?
Because when you think of a baby, you think of something that's helpless and can't survive without you. And so you're programming yourself to believe that your business cannot survive without you. And then how are you supposed to bring on a team that can take that away so that you can step away and really have a break from your business because you've babyfied it? And I was just like, wow, I never even thought of that.
That's so true, isn't it? You're basically just creating another load of mum guilt as though we don't have enough already, and we don't need to.
Exactly.
That's so interesting.
I know. I thought about it and I thought, I'm never going to call my business my baby. Never.
Same. Yeah. If I don't know if I have, but I definitely know people who say that. So, oh my God,
it's one to avoid for sure. So as business owners, like I say, we often are prioritizing our work over our health. So I wanted you to sort of touch on how our health, significantly our gut health, can impact our productivity and our ability to be good in the business that we're doing.
So I think this is such an important point, something that business owners don't necessarily consider. It's just go, 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 go. But I mean, in terms of gut health basically is our health as far as I'm concerned, because the vast majority of our immune system, we know, around 70%, is in our gut. So, and what that actually means is that our probiotic colonies, so our good bacteria, which is situated in our gut, is what's fighting off the bad bacteria that causes us to be ill. So bad bacteria is behind, sort of a lot of the illness that we would get. So not only do we need, sort of our gut health to be strong for our immune system to work, but also we know from science now that there's a gut-brain connection. So literally, like what's going on in your gut, your microbiome and the health of your microbiome affects your mood. Like, and not in just a sort of vague way, but like in a really measurable way. They've done loads of studies now to show that like it could even be the difference between, like, your gut health can make the difference between you being suicidal and being,
Wow.
yeah, and just like being fine and happy. It's that persuasive, the evidence. So vital, basically, that we are, that we take care of our guts, that we take care of our health generally. And I think especially for business owners, because I've also had, sort of 9 to 5 job in the past. I still do legal work 1 day a week to keep my hand in there. And I actually advise other businesses, like on legal, small businesses on legal matters. So I'm very much like still in that world and like, I can kind of see the comparison. And what I find with my business is my health is actually more important in terms of me being an entrepreneur, because, and I know you'll relate to this as well, Donna, but like with my business, it is directly correlated, like the success of my business is directly correlated with how much I push myself out of my comfort zone. Now, in my 9 to 5, like being a lawyer, I can just go into the office, do the specific things that I've been asked to do by my corporate boss. I quite enjoy that job. It's like not a hardship at all. And then I switch off at 5 and that's it. Like it doesn't take that much out of me, to be honest. I quite enjoy it, but it doesn't. Whereas with my business, because it's us, when you're an entrepreneur, you're literally driving this thing forward. If you're not, sort of making something happen, even if you're delegating, you're still leading it, you're still the visionary. If you're not driving it forward, then nothing's happening essentially, because it's your business. So but in terms, so I always have something on my calendar that scares me, something that pushes me out of my comfort zone. But that is impossible if I'm not feeling well. Like you can't expect to be that kind of person who's driven, who's out of their comfort zone, who's doing something new that's, whether it's going live, for example, or sort of hosting a masterclass or just something, or getting up on the stage. You can't do that. You can't expect yourself to play at that level unless you're also feeling really well. So good health is like a means to an end for, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think you're so right. And it's one of those things that I have really been focusing on the last couple of years is my health. I have had a weight issue, mental or otherwise, since I was 11 years old. Like I've constantly been on diets. I want to lose weight. I want to be skinny, blah, blah, blah. And that has followed me my entire life up until about 2 years ago. And I started working with a health coach. And we were kind of analyzing this, like, what is my end goal? And the end goal for me was that I wanted to be around for a long time. I wanted to look after myself as much as possible. I didn't want to drop down from a heart attack at some point. Like, I want to make sure that what I'm doing, like, that the inside of me is the most highly functioning version of itself that it can be. And it's so hard because you can't see it. Like, people know that they shouldn't smoke. But they still do. But if their lungs were on the outside of their body, would they still be doing it? Because they can't see the effects. And even if they've got a cough or something, it's just like, oh, it's not all the time. It doesn't bother me. Like it just becomes a habit almost, as well as the smoking. So it's so hard for us to sort of see that internal thing. So where we're talking about gut health here, like nobody can see inside their tummy. They don't know what's going on in there. It's like it's really hard for us to kind of put the importance on it. But the last 2 years for me have been like, put your health first. It's not about losing weight. It's about looking after yourself as well as possible. And if you're looking after yourself as well as possible, your body will find its natural situation. And if that's heavier than I want it to be, then so be it, because I want to be being healthy. And it's been hard, and it still is an ongoing thing. I spent 30 years wanting to be a size 10, and so it's not an overnight change, but it's something that I'm always working on. So I think that I completely agree with you that it's like, it's so important to kind of look at the health of yourself, because it affects everything, not just your business, but it affects your relationship. Like if you're feeling really like classic example, me and my other half are looking to go away in 3 weeks time. We haven't booked anything, but he's had to cram in his holiday, so we're just like, okay, let's try and go away for 3 days. And on Monday night I was like, okay, let's sit down, let's go on booking.com, let's see if we can find like a beach somewhere and a hotel and see what's what. And I wanted him to sit down and do it with me. And he's been suffering, bless him, with hay fever. And he was just like, I don't even know if it's hay fever right now. It's like this cough. And he's not. And I was like, go and take a COVID test right now, which he did. And it was clear. But he was just fit. And he was just like, oh, and he was just looking at me and his eyes looked sore and swollen. And he was just like, I can't focus. I can't. And he couldn't do it. So he got grumpy with me and I kind of got annoyed at him because I wanted to get it booked and he's not feeling well enough to kind of sit there and do it. And that's all his health. So you can imagine, like, he's not going to have been that great at work with his colleagues. You know, he might have been a bit snappy and stuff, because you do get that way if you don't feel good in yourself. So it's so important. It's so important.
You're just, if you're not feeling well, you're just dragging yourself through life. And what way is that to live? I run a workshop every now and then, and I always put in this slide, and it's of me and the two little ones, Jessica and Ethan, and Craig's taking the picture, and like we're in California, like in the mountains.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, in one of their national parks actually, and it's like on this 2-month house swap that we did in California. And I always put it in to illustrate, like, because that was like on the other side of my health journey when I was feeling better. And I always like to make the point that, like, you know, like, it isn't like, no one sort of really cares about their health for the sake of the health. You care about the health because then you can live the way that you want to. So, like, you know, at the beginning of my health journey, when I was really ill, like, I couldn't have thought about organizing a 2-month house swap. Like, I just trying to get through the day, you know, and like work out when I could next take a nap. Like, you know, I was just dragging myself through the day, like just trying to do the necessities, the essential stuff, you know, like feed the kids basically, and like try and maybe even have a half decent conversation with Craig, like when he got home. But like, when you have your health and you have your energy, then like your real desires, like from the essence of you, like, oh my God, I really want to go on that holiday, like you were feeling like, oh, I really want to do this, let me phone up this person and we'll organize such and such. That's when you can really live, isn't it? So that's why we need our health, so that we can enjoy our lives.
For sure. Right, before I get into my next question, you're going to need to explain a little bit more about Ayurveda and what it is. Kind of give us, like, for people who have never heard of it before, can you give us kind of a little explanation to sort of place it for us?
Yes, of course. So Ayurveda is basically the world's oldest health, like, written down healthcare system. So I say written down because since the beginning of humans being around, I'm sure we've been healing each other and healing ourselves with plants and herbs and stuff. But in terms of a documented healthcare system, Ayurveda is actually the oldest one.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other healthcare systems, like TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, are based on Ayurveda. And basically, it works in the sense that it looks at us as holistic beings. So whereas we would go to a Western doctor and then they just like look at the body part that's causing the issue and try and fix that. Like, and if you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, you'd be asked, well, how have you been feeling, like within yourself, for example? You would, like, every part of your body and your life would be, you know, sort of examined, to find out where you're out of balance, because the whole idea is that we're all based, and everything around us is based on elements, so are made up of elements. So, you know, we have the water element, and the earth element, which is present in what we call the Kapha dosha. So that's like a Kapha type. And then we have Pitta, which is like the fire element, and it also has water in there. And then we have Vata, which is the air and space element. So everything, like not just us, but even nature, for example, is made up of these elements. And what we're trying to do with Ayurveda, the whole kind of point, is that we're trying to get ourselves back into balance. So if we're experiencing anything negative, whether it's weight, excess weight, for example, or whether it's headaches, or whether it's something like anxiety and stress and something that's not tangible. It's all just an imbalance. It's all just symptoms of the fact that we're out of balance. So we're just looking to bring ourselves back into what is balance for us, basically. What kind of doshic profile did we come in with? Let's try and get back to that. So it's very holistic. And by the way, if anyone's interested, I have a dosha quiz that I've made myself on my website, and it's just a couple of minutes. People can take that to find out what they might be.
Yes, I took it.
You did, didn't you? What did you get again, Donna?
I got kapha.
Yes.
Which makes me, I don't particularly like that word. It makes me feel like I'm a fat cow. So that's what it brings up. That's the image it brings up for me. I'm just like, oh, great. Because they're called calves, aren't they? Yeah. You know, baby cows. So I'm just like, I'm just a baby cow laying in a field.
It's not based on the English word for calf. I think as you do a lot of work at home, it makes sense that you would get that dosha, because kapha is very earthy, they're very organized, they're very sort of looking after everything. But I think, so I wouldn't be surprised if you've got a lot of kapha energy going on at the moment. When people are mums as well, they often get kapha, because this is another thing, your doshic profile changes throughout your life. Yeah. But I would say naturally, I'm pretty sure you'd have a lot of pitta energy, which is the fire energy, because that's definitely what I get when I speak to you.
I love that. I prefer that. You see, but the thing is that again, that makes me think of pitta bread, and I'm just and now I'm a loaf of bread.
We need to change the words for you.
Yeah. We just need to think of new words. If we could just go back a few hundred years and just change the whole thing, that'd be great. Okay. Anyway, okay. So now we know a little bit about what Ayurveda is. Yeah. I know that it places a strong emphasis on maintaining that healthy digestive system. That's part of what you do. So with business owners running around, doing all of this stuff here, there and everywhere, not having lunch, not having dinner, you back the coffees, the chugging back the coffees for you guys on the podcast. You have no idea what I was motioning there. What can we do? How can we improve our gut health? What are some things that we can do that are going to help to make a difference?
Yes, actually, I'm going to go a little bit left field, because since you mentioned coffee, and it's such a thing, isn't it, in our culture to sort of,
it is. We have become a bit of a coffee culture.
Yes, exactly. Every other meme is about, coffee, but first coffee and all that. So instead of having normal coffee throughout the day, a nice little change would be to have something like mushroom coffee. Now, it sounds a bit weird, but actually there's a really lovely brand called Four Sigmatic. Really, really good ethos there, really, really well sourced, tested for mold and toxins and that kind of thing. And it's not just made with basic supermarket mushrooms, it's made with medicinal mushrooms, and not magic mushrooms either.
Going to be quite clear here.
Yeah, it's not that kind of podcast. Yeah, but what you'll find in there is it's half the strength of normal coffee. So there's half. So it is half, sort of organic coffee. But the rest of the kind of buzz that you get from this coffee is from mushrooms like reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps. And what they do is particularly something like lion's mane, it's really good for energy, and it's good for focus, and it's good for kind of giving you that sort of natural stimulation, but in a healthy way. Unlike coffee, which is fine for some of the doshas, but can sort of take its toll because it's quite strong.
Yeah.
All of those mushrooms are also really supportive of gut health as well. So I always think, when you're making healthy changes, if you can start early in the day, you just get things off to a good start. So that's one. So that's one kind of swap that you could, sort of do at breakfast time, swap your normal coffee for a mushroom coffee and go for the Four Sigmatic brand. Another change I would bring in, maybe at lunchtime, is to bring in some fermented food with your lunchtime meal. And this will just give your gut a really strong source of probiotics, and it's actually better often than taking a probiotic capsule, because food is actually a better vehicle for probiotic cultures, sort of better than a sterile capsule. So you could bring in, so for instance, I make stuff like kimchi and sauerkraut. So long as, so you could, sort of check mine out, or you could actually just make your own, because it's really easy to do. And I have lots of like workshops and like follow along videos on my Instagram. But the main thing is that you make sure that whatever you get or make is unpasteurized, because then the cultures from that natural fermentation are still there, and they're going to repopulate your gut over time, and really strengthen your immune system. And you'll notice just within a few days, like if you have any digestive issues, often that makes a really big difference, sort of starting to have just a little bit of kimchi or sauerkraut with a main meal.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I do. I'm not a fan of coffee. I'm not a coffee. I'm a tea girl. And
yes.
And in this weather, do you know what? I've had 1 cup of tea today. This is unheard of. Like anybody who knows me well, like I'm like 12 cups of tea
and
a
you
day.
have quite big cups as well, don't you?
I have big cups. Yeah, I do. I'm none of this teacup stuff. Like, no, give me a mug.
A proper mug.
And yeah, 12 cups a day. And I've like weaned myself back. Like I was talking to you the other week that I got my habits tracker that I was doing, and I put on there that I would only have up to 8 cups a day, and I managed to like cut myself back to 8 cups. And I do go decaf from between 2 and 3 o'clock, whatever around there. I will go to decaf. But I don't like coffee. But today I have had 1 cup of tea. And I've just been on the old water.
That's pretty amazing. It is extremely hot, isn't it? So you having to like not have it because it's been so hot might actually wean you off. So maybe, you'll cut it down even more.
No, it only works for the summer. As soon as the weather starts turning again, I want, and then what I was going to say is that I have had my, the herbal tea. So I've got a strawberry and raspberry tea that I've been having instead of my normal tea, because it's not got the milk in it. And I'm just like, it's the milk, it's too warm for milky anything. So, and I don't have milky tea, but I do have a good dollop in there. So I was just like, no, so I've been having my herbal tea. So my tea is I'm right down, and today I couldn't even do a herbal one. I was just like, I had my morning cuppa and I was just like, I'm done with that.
I love it.
So funny.
Do you know what, Donna, since you've said that, because you're not like, particularly because you're not a coffee drinker, I just throw in one other tip for gut health, because this might be even sort of more actionable for people who might not want to like rush out and get some kimchi, for example. So what I would say is start including a lot more green vegetables in your diet, but just make sure they're properly cooked. So you don't want to be like, suddenly starting to blend up like loads of raw kale, for example, because that's actually going to be hard to digest. But even if you could get lots of broccoli, for example, like steamed with olive oil, garlic, for example.
Favorite vegetable.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Honestly, if you could just do one thing, like, sort of steaming some broccoli, serving it with like olive oil and some sauteed garlic, for example, would be amazing, because what you're doing there with the green vegetables is they're very supportive of the liver. So, because they're bitters, like anything green tends to be sort of bitter and quite regenerating for the liver. And it's also a prebiotic. So even though you're not bringing in probiotics, like extra probiotic colonies, what you're doing is the prebiotics mean food for the probiotics. So you're essentially feeding your existing probiotic colonies. And actually, it looks like from current research that actually might be just as beneficial as bringing in new probiotics, just supporting the ones that you've already got. Any kind of vegetables are usually a prebiotic, and garlic is a really good prebiotic as well. And it has like a whole host of other sort of antiviral, antibacterial benefits. So I would just say, go for lots of green veg, chuck some garlic in there, and that's going to really do wonders as well.
Love that. Okay, there's your tips, guys. There's your tips. Okay, next up. So we're going to talk a little bit about stress now, because it is a prevalent issue and it can have a significant impact on our health, as you have attested to in your story. So how can the Ayurvedic detox techniques, because you talked a bit about detox, and we've got a freebie that we're going to talk about in a little bit. How can those techniques and practices help us to sort of manage our stress effectively?
Yeah, so the lovely thing about Ayurveda is you can't really practice Ayurveda without addressing stress, because like the whole point of it is to bring yourself back into balance, like mind, body, and spirit. So like the whole ethos is like, is going to address stress. Woven into it are like some really lovely rituals that will do just that. So, for example, in Ayurveda, we have a dinacharya, which kind of loosely means your daily routine, like what you do every day, like your daily self-care rituals. So if you practice Ayurveda, you'll have some kind of dinacharya, like some kind of self-care rituals through the day. And you don't have to be like really strict about this. It's not like one of those American podcaster, like, miracle morning, do this, and that at 5 a.m. type thing. It's much more gentle, and it's much like, more like looking at your dosha and what fits into your life. But like one of the sort of main things on a dinacharya would be to incorporate some meditation, for example, in your routine. So even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, breathing, sort of smooth breathing, maybe like 4 counts in, holding for 4 counts, out for 4 counts, with your hand on your heart, for example. Just some kind of stillness practice is really recommended in Ayurveda, just to, again, like sort of calm the mind down and to kind of get into the spirit first thing in the morning. So even if it's just a case of sitting up in bed, putting your hand on your heart, doing that like conscious breathing, for example, and when you're doing it, just bringing to mind like a heart opening memory. So this is my favorite like meditation. I do it like every single day. And if I'm getting a bit stressed, I'll literally just, even if I'm out, I'll go to the loo and do this. So a heart opening memory, for example, could be, for me, it was like, when I was holding one of my children as a baby and like feeding them, or it could be stroking a pet, or anything that kind of, or just being in nature, anything that kind of evokes that like feeling. So if when you're doing the breathing, you bring to mind and you just kind of relive that in your mind with your eyes closed, your brain can't tell the difference between whether it's actually happening or not. So all the same feelings and chemicals that are released in those relaxing experiences will be released again in your body. And what it does is it puts your heart and your brain into a state of coherence, which is the optimal healing state. And this is when, without even doing anything else, medication, herbs, like your body will actually start to heal itself of its own accord, because it has its own natural healing mechanisms, without you even needing to sort of do anything else. So if you could start your day with like a few minutes of that, like that just sets you up for the best day. It's really lovely, and it's very Ayurvedic as well.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I do, and I didn't do it this morning because I didn't have time. I got completely distracted by LinkedIn. That's another story. But I didn't get to do my meditation this morning, so I'm actually going to do it when we get off this podcast, because I do. It's not like a proper meditation. It's the Daily J, which is Jay Shetty, and I love listening to him and his little daily tips of wisdom. And then he usually he ends with like a 3-minute breath work type thing, and I love doing that. So I do that every day, but also in the Calm app, and hashtag not sponsored, but I love the Calm app. It has this thing, and when you were saying about the breathing, it made me think of it. There's like literally a thing in there, a program in there that you can tap on, and it will literally just play like this ring noise where it will ring out, sort of get louder, and then it will get quieter. And there's actually a visual as well of a circle, and it tells you to breathe in and then breathe out, and then breathe. So you can actually do something like that if you're like get distracted. That's easily.
A great idea. It's
you
really
can look at your
good.
phone and just breathe with that thing. So I love that, and I will do that occasionally when I remember. Like I get the Calm app to kind of notify me at lunchtime to do something, and if I've got time I will hop in there and just even if it's 1 minute of just breathing, because again, it's something that's so simple, but so many of us don't breathe properly because we're living in this stressed state and we're shallow breathing all the time, and just taking that time to do some deep breathing where we're actually really taking in. And I think when you're deep breathing, it's really easy to kind of focus on your breath, because it's kind of hard not to when you're taking in a deep breath. So it kind of just focuses you for that little bit of time. And hearing the benefits, what you're saying there with that kind of action, with pairing it with a really lovely memory, just sounds like a lovely way to start the day. Now, I have to say, I do have issues with starting the day like that, because there are other people in my house, and other people are noisy. And you know, the number of times I've had to stop Jay because Matthew comes in the bedroom and needs to switch on the hairdryer to blow dry his hair before he goes to work. I'm just like,
this is why I now go into the garden.
I love it. And that's okay in the summer. The weather we've got right now is perfect for garden meditation.
But you know what, Donna, I would say, and this is one other tip, like, I know it doesn't sound very appealing when it isn't summer, but I was actually wrapping up and going out even when it was cold. Because it's another little health hack, I suppose. But if you can get out like into natural light, like before you look at your screen or anything, like as early as possible, that actually attunes your circadian rhythms to nature, which then has the knock-on effect of being really good for your sleep. Because what you're basically saying to your body is, it's the morning, like we're starting our morning. So then by the time you get to the end of your day, your body knows it's time to switch off. And it's really correlated with like you being able to sleep more deeply. So yeah, I think this is going to become like quite a thing that people do, like start doing more often, like over, I think it's because the research is really there. So so while it's hot, you might as well make the most of it and see if you can slip out.
I am very lucky in the fact that the sun rises into my bedroom window. So I will actually go over to my bedroom window, open my window, and just stick my head out the window to get my vitamin D in the morning, because we've spoken about my lack of vitamin D. And I'm doing this vitamin D and K drop that you sort of said about. I really like the taste. It's weird, but it's weirdly nice. I like it's like, and I'm starting and it's almost like I've now programmed myself to that taste, that when I start preparing my breakfast in the morning, because what I do is I have my granola and I have my Greek yogurt. I just drop a drop on the end of my Greek yogurt, because I can't drop it into my mouth from the dropper. I'm like literally going to hit my chin. Like you can't see where you're dropping it. So I just drop it onto my Greek yogurt spoon and just take it that way. And I'm just like, it's a really bizarre taste, but I actually quite like it. And I now can taste it before I've actually tasted it, because I've set up this little routine.
So your brain knows what's to it. Oh, that's amazing.
What's coming. It's bizarre. But so I stick my head out the window sometimes.
Perfect.
But before I get to work, I go outside, and I've got a koi pond in my garden.
Oh, nice.
I love my pond, and I go out and I feed my fish. And so I do get that fresh air and that
and
get
the
that
light
outside.
As well.
It's not like first thing, but it is like before I come and sit down to my computer to work. So I do
I love that. And just sticking your head out the window, same thing, because you're still getting that light.
And I don't mind doing that when it's cold so much, because it's only the window and I can shut it. Oh my God, such a good conversation. Thank you so much, Emma. It's so fun to have you on the show and to talk about this, because I know that on this podcast we're talking about planning, we're talking about productivity, we're talking about audience building, and we're talking about mindset. And you might think, well, where does this fit into that, Donna? But for me, your health is the core of everything. And if you haven't got your health, you're in big trouble. Like you can't mindset over health issues. You have to get your health right first, and then that helps you to be able to get your mindset in the right place. Like if you feel good internally, it's a lot easier to think positively and like put out that positive affirmation into the world and make it happen. If you are feeling sluggish, if you're lethargic, if your energy is completely sapped, if when you finish work all you want to do is go to bed, like that no amount of positive affirmation is going to get you over that. There's something internal that you need to sort out beforehand. So I think it was a really, really important conversation. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about it. So before we finish off, you have got a free weekend gut detox. Tell us about that and tell us where we can grab it.
Yes. So it is on my website, on the homepage of my website, and I think it's a really nice one to do for people who are looking to get started. So if you are feeling a bit sluggish, a bit like run down and low energy, and you're just like, I need something, but you just want it to be easy, you can download this, and it's just a guide as to like basically how you can kind of create your own like weekend, almost like a mini detox, and you can just kind of devote a weekend to it. But you don't need to like clear your calendar. It's very much like, here are some simple, sort of recipes, simple things that you can do, and you're just going to feel so much more refreshed after the weekend. So absolutely free, and it's on my website at eatlifewellness.com. .co.uk, and you can download it there.
Fabulous. I will link it in the show notes, guys, so you can head over to the show notes and download it. Where can people find you on the internet? Where do you like to hang out most, Emma Louise?
Instagram.
It's my place too. Yes. It's my place too. Fabulous.
It's really the only social media I do regularly, and I do love it. Yes.
Yes, awesome. So guys, do show your love for Emma Louise over on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
It's eat_live_wellness.
Fabulous. So I will link that in the show notes too. Do tag us both on social media. There's my computer just interrupting me. Do tag us both on social media and let us know what your biggest takeaway was from this episode. I will leave that link to that weekend detox so you can go ahead and do that as well. But before we disappear, I do have my quick fire round where we get to know a little bit more about you with my 3 questions, which I am always fascinated to know the answers because they are always very different for everybody. So I'm interested to see what your answers are. So if you are okay with it, Emma, I've got 3 little questions that I'd like to ask.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so what is the book that has made the biggest impact on your life so far?
Oh, okay. So the first one that springs to mind is an amazing book called Loving What Is by an author called Byron Katie.
Wow.
And so a lot of people know like Eckhart Tolle, like, the meditation guru. Byron Katie feels like the female version for me. And she had this like whole enlightenment experience, very like sudden. And then she developed this thought process called the work. And it's essentially like the original limiting belief work. So every time you have a stressful thought, whether it's like, oh, you're overwhelmed, or, you feel like, I don't know, like someone's leaving you out, like it can literally be anything, or you feel like you're too big, for example. Like any stressful belief, she says, is not true, and you can and if you inquire using this particular like thought work process she does, it just kind of sets you free, and you end up like, it's amazing, you end up just laughing about the thing that was causing you all this stress and misery before.
Oh, I love the sound of that.
It's so good. Yeah. So her worksheets, like so the book is all about that, but she does the free worksheets like on her website, so I can give you the details if you want to put that in the show notes.
Put it in the show notes.
Yeah, and she does the work with people on YouTube, so it's nice to watch a few videos and just get the feel of how she does it and how it works. And it's honestly the best thing I've ever done. So it's like saved my life again and again.
I think that's so good, and it's so true. I had somebody else turn around and say to me that sort of thing, like, well, this, like, I'm saying something as if it's fact, and they turn around and said, but is that true? And I had to think about it, and I was just like, maybe not.
Yeah, that's Byron Katie. That's literally her process. She starts with the question, is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? And then she goes through a few other,
Yeah. You go too far down that rabbit hole and you're like, what is truth? We can get very heavy on that.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, moving on from that before we get too deep. Yeah, before we get too enlightened. What would be your favorite go-to snack if you are in a hurry? And very interesting to hear from you what your answer would be.
Yes. Okay. So my favorite snack, I don't know why I'm laughing, but maybe because it sounds boring, but this is genuinely like what I eat all the time, often for breakfast as well, if I can't be bothered to like do anything. So I really like activated nuts and seeds. It's a really nice brand on Amazon called Boundless with really lovely flavors. But the main thing is and why they're called activated is because they are soaked in like salty water overnight and then baked at a really, really low temperature. And what that does is, because we all know nuts and seeds are healthy, like, you know, sort of on paper. Actually, when you eat them in their natural state, you don't really absorb the nutrition, because the whole sort of structure of nuts and seeds is that they're designed to kind of protect what's in them,
the inside.
And they're also full of like things to stop people eating them, because they have their own survival mechanism, like phytic acid. So actually they're not nuts and seeds in their natural state aren't as healthy as we think, but if you soak them and activate them, you get all the goodness, and they're just amazing, and they taste better as well. And they're just an amazing source of omega oils and protein, and great for the brain as well. So that's my favourites on the go snack.
Well, I would have expected nothing less from you than something so fancy.
Love it.
You'll have to send us the link for that, the brand that you use as well, because I have, like, I bought and I was so funny, Emma, honestly. We had our discussion, guys, and I went and bought some flax seeds and some chia seeds. So I'd been eating chia seeds already and I quite liked them. I told my health coach that they turned into frog spawn in my Greek yogurt, and I thought it was really weird. That's how it's weird how I just turn like I'm a cow, I'm a loaf of bread, frog spawn in my breakfast. And we spoke about flax seeds, and I said I got the milled version, but the milled version didn't work well in my granola, and you said just buy some regular. And I bought some, and I thought they were going to come like 500-gram packets is what I got pictured in my head when I ordered them, and I've got like a kilo. Such a big bag, and I'm just like, oh my god. But my problem is like you say, they are in their natural form, so I need to soak them, and remembering to do that the night before is pain in the bum. So if there's something that's already out there that's done for you,
exactly, because even though I'm always, you know, sort of talking about this stuff, like honestly, like I'm not massive on cooking and like being in the kitchen. Like it's a means to an end for me. So if honestly, if I can get it done properly for me, I'll buy it every time. I only started making all my stuff because I couldn't find the quality and like what I wanted. So I'm right.
And that's another thing that I actually really love about you and your business is how you're always sort of thinking of the ethical stakes and the cleanness of the products and where they're coming from, and, you know, all of that jazz. And I really appreciate that, because I think a lot of people are moving now towards, you know, how can I make the least impact on the world? You know, what can I do? Where are these things coming from? We're more interested in knowing the origins of where things are coming from, and just knowing what we are putting inside our bodies as well. So I really appreciate your ethos around that. So last question before we go, what is your ultimate me time thing to do?
Okay, so very boring, very much an introvert answer, but I love nothing more than sitting in a coffee shop. And I have a favorite one in Enfield, where there's like a bench and then it's windows. So I'm literally just like looking at people walking past, and I'll have my headphones in with a podcast like this one. And I'll just be there with, you know, an oat cappuccino or something, just like watching people walk past and listening to a podcast all by myself. And that's like my idea of heaven, just like quiet and rejuvenate. That's rejuvenating for me.
I'm there. I'll sit on the other bench though, so you can be alone, because I like to be alone too. I love that. But lo and behold, if you walk in there and somebody's sat on your bench, like, you know, wouldn't that be like...
It is. It's like, really, universe, get out.
Put my name on it. I wrote my name on it a long time ago. It's my bench. Love it. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for answering those questions. I just love a little bit of fun at the end. And it's always eye-opening as well to sort of hear from other people, because sometimes we don't think about these things ourselves. So I think it prompts other people to think, oh, well, what do I actually like to do? So I love to do those questions. So thank you so much for your time, Emma Louise. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. It's been fantastic.
Oh, thanks so much, Donna. I've really enjoyed our chat. I knew it was going to be a fun one, and it definitely was.
It really was. Guys, you can go and follow Emma Louise on her Instagram. I will leave the links all in the show notes. Please do go head over and let us know what your biggest takeaway was. Tag us both. You know, I'm Donna_Eid_ on Instagram. Tag us both, share what your thoughts are, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to hit those stars and leave a review of the podcast where you listen if you found value in what you heard today. It's a free way you can help the podcast reach more people just like you.